For the English introduction of this episode, please skip to minute 1.10.
Ladies and Gentlemen, ich werde dieses Intro, das deutsche Intro, kurz halten. Mein heutiger Gast ist ein legendärer amerikanischer Fotograf und Künstler. Er verstand es, die Ikonen der Gegenkultur, der Gegenkulturen seiner Zeit in angemessen ikonischen Bildern festzuhalten. Seine Arbeiten sind wegweisende Dokumentationen urbaner Jugendkultur, seine Bildsprache und Ästhetik haben Generationen von Fotografen beeinflusst und geprägt. Punkrock-Bands wie Black Flag, Minor Threat, Fugazi und die Bad Brains, Hip-Hop-Acts wie Public Enemy, Run-DMC, die Beastie Boys und LL Cool J oder die Vorväter des Skateboarding, die Dogtown Boys, allesamt Namen, die heute Legendenstatus genießen, da sie am Anfang von etwas standen. Und bei ihnen stand der Mann, mit dem ich mich heute über die amerikanische Gegenwart aus der Sicht eines diese Gegenwart genau beobachtenden Amerikaners unterhalten darf. Ladies and gentlemen, Glen E. Friedman. In the summer of 1994, music became important to me. It was the Beastie Boys video for the song Sabotage playing on MTV that kicked off the gospel, and after I went to a real record store for the first time in my life, the album Ill Communication served as the holy book. I've spent countless hours deciphering the small printed lyrics in the CD booklet, dictionary in hand while the album was playing, and I invested about the same amount of time just gazing at the complex painting by Alex Gray in the centerfold. The music on this record, ranging from crisp hip-hop to hardcore punk to jazzy, easy-listening tunes, made me not only appreciate musical craftsmanship, songwriting and diversity, but made sure I never wanted to settle for less, giving me a hard time in the years to come. Anyway, I wanted to know more about this band, about the Beastie Boys. I wanted to know it all. What are their other records like? What is Grand Royal? What is X-Large? What's this thing with T-Bat and who is Nathaniel Hornblower? Quite a task in an age when information was scarce compared to the internet era, but I was hell-bent on figuring it out. In the summer of 1994, 30 years ago, music became important to me as I learned through the Beastie Boys that it's much more than just rhythmic harmonic sound. It's an obsession. And ready to be obsessed about it, I was. Tracing back the evolutionary chain of almost all musical genres that were meaningful to me, one name kept reappearing, and today, the man that bears this name is my guest. To describe him, I have to fall back on words that certainly became corny over decades of overuse. A rebel, a maverick, a legend. He would most likely detest all of those attributes above, but in all honesty and with all due respect, he was hanging with the giants that my generation's musical upbringing was standing on the shoulders of. Let me do some name-dropping, if I may. Bad Brains, Minor Threat, the Beastie Boys, of course, Run-DMC, Suicidal Tendencies, Black Flag, and thus Henry Rollins. Singer, writer, traveler, cultural icon, Henry Rollins, a man for whom my admiration clearly borders on adoration. My today's guest's photography helped to visualize the back-then underground cultures of punk rock and hip-hop and also skateboarding with an aesthetic that should influence generations of photographers to come. His pictures, his compositions were able to capture the raw split seconds of peak energy and thus immortalize these moments. He, who told so many inspiring stories through his art, he himself has a story to be told, but ironically, this is not what you're about to hear. Because I wanted to know the perspective of a man of his legacy, of such integrity, on the political and social trajectory of the United States of America. So, with an undeniable feeling of pride and accomplishment, I can say, please welcome Mr. Glen E. Friedman.
Ladies and gentlemen, yeah!
Natürliche Ausrede.
If I get any closer, I'll be licking it.
War das nicht ganz so schlimm oder nicht ganz so geil ist?
Was wirklich drauf anlegt, könnte man Suicide by Tiger begehen.
Ja, es kann schief gehen.
Und das ist, weißt du,
Hier werden nicht so viele Leute erschossen.
10.000 Mann, wir brauchen Pferde und Kanonen.
Ich finde den Plan super. Die Welt geht zugrunde.
Alles Kacke, bis nächste Woche.
Of course not, especially one that, appears under such, well, let's say, dubious circumstances.
This is true. This is true.
So, first of all, once again, thank you. By the way, I would start recording right now. If that's fine with you.
Great. How are things in Germany? Are you in Germany?
I am in Germany, and winter is coming. Got a little cold, like you just have to, and the year was dire. I say it was a hard year. Well, not for me personal, but looking at what's happening right now, especially looking over to you, to the US, it's kind of, well, it's tricky, isn't it?
It's horrible and it's disgusting and it's kind of unbelievable.
Unbelievable is a good word for this. Have you ever considered the guy coming back in office?
Yeah, you have to consider it. You live here. And he's a piece of shit. And we have a lot of stupid people who live in this country. Suckers are born every minute, as they say, and he's a con man. And, but it's not like the people who are supposed to be, progressive, who aren't. It doesn't help that they try and be, conservative in some ways in order to get those votes. That's not the way to do it. And we've been learning that over and over again. My favorite politician is Bernie Sanders and AOC. I think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the brightest star on our future if they don't, get rid of her. It's a very, very hard to believe situation. It's funny that you ask about the con man, shithead, narcissist, piece of shit that, apparently has won the last election. Because I have a funny story to tell, and I'm only going to do it because I'm talking to someone in Germany right now. But before I went to my show in Berlin, the night before I had my show in Berlin in 1999, I had a chance meeting through some particular friends. And because of the person I was with and the person who was running the club where I was at, all of a sudden, Donald Trump and I are sitting at a bar together.
No.
Yeah. And my friend went to the bathroom. The other guy went to join more people, bring more people into the club. Very fancy place, but I was hanging out with a, big shot music person and who happened to be friends with this piece of shit. And so we're sitting there. Neither of us drink, by the way. And we're just sitting there kind of waiting to move on.
Sure.
He's waiting for his friend. I'm waiting for my friend. And so we start talking a little bit. And he asked how I know our mutual friend. And I said, well, I used to do a lot of the company's album covers and blah, blah, blah. And, and I started doing this stuff with skateboarding. He actually talked about skateboarding in a very interesting way. He understood how skateboarders use the architecture.
Huh.
And that was interesting. And I was like, wow, maybe this guy isn't as fucking scummy as we've thought for all the years. Because everyone in New York knows he's a piece of shit. Everyone knows because he's just a loser con man. He's lost hundreds of millions of dollars, but somehow finds a sucker to always, prop him up somehow or to buy some shit that he's selling. That television program that he had here in America was his last chance, actually. He was bankrupt, I think. He was done. And then he got this stupid TV show that was, what do they call that kind of television?
Scripted reality TV or something?
Reality TV or something. So anyways, trying to make the long story short, but that's kind of impossible sometimes.
Don't worry.
So he says, so what do you got going on next? I said, well, actually, I'm flying to Berlin tomorrow morning. Or tomorrow evening, I'm flying to Berlin. I have an exhibition there. And imagine two people sitting next to each other at a bar, and neither of them drink. But he looks at me, turns his head to the left, and looks at me. Takes a couple of glances at me. Looks closer, like he's analyzing me.
Huh.
He says, "You look Jewish. Are you Jewish?" And I said, "What does that have to do with anything? That is my heritage, but I am atheist." He says, "Yeah, but you look Jewish." I said, "Well," and he says, "You're going to Berlin tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah, I have a show there. I'm going there for an exhibition." He said, "I wouldn't go if I were you. They don't like your kind over there."
Your kind.
That's what he said. His exact words. I said, "What?" He looks at me again, double take. He says, "Hey, you look Jewish. You shouldn't go over there. They don't like your kind over there." And I said, "Well, actually, they invited me to come, and they know who I am, and they know what I look like, and I think I'm going anyways." And I said, World War II ended about, over 50 years ago. And I don't know, all the Germans I've met seem pretty understanding and actually quite receptive to people of Jewish heritage. Anyways, see you later.
Was he before he became president, and when you said he was a buffoon and a con man and probably a loser who just is trying to keep up this facade of the epitome of a wealthy man, was he ever considered dangerous?
No, just scum. Just scum. Never dangerous. No one considered him dangerous. It was, there's quotes, and they, you have him speaking of Hillary Clinton before he ran against her, saying that she would make a great president one day, that she's a great politician, she's the best thing New York ever had, saying that if he ever ran for public office, if he ever did, he would certainly run as a Republican because he could get on Fox News and, just sucker people and just get people to believe whatever he said, because that's how Republicans are. He said it himself. There was video of it. It's been, erased from the internet. I can't find it again. And then people say, oh, they try and do a false flag and say it was in People magazine, the quote. But it was never in People magazine. There was a video of him. He was speaking to someone, and I saw it with my own two eyes. So what are you going to do? It's gone. It's disappeared. But he said that, and, he's really, really a fucking idiot in some ways. And in other ways, like every con man or drug addict, they got ways of figuring things out to pull one over on people to get what they want. And there's always a sucker. Like we said, there's a sucker born every day. Yeah. It's unfortunate. It's unbelievable. It's hard to conceive with all the things and all the fights that we've been fighting during my lifetime since the 60s when I was born, that something like this could happen. It's unbelievable, and it is scary, but at the same time, the trajectory has always been there for us. If you listen to Noam Chomsky and other progressives, Howard Zinn and people like this, and you read the particular sources of information, that we've been on this trajectory for a while, but we kind of thought it was slowing down or we were reversing it. And there's no way it could be this bad. When George Bush was running for president for the second time, it was unfathomable that he would win. But of course, the Democrats, and because we only have two parties in this country who kind of represent a little bit towards the left, but not barely, put up these horrible candidates, again, just Republican light, right? Ever since Bill Clinton, neoliberal policies are things that even Ronald Reagan could never have dreamed of getting passed because he was a Republican. But the wolf in sheep's clothing, Bill Clinton, and the other Democrats who came later, who were far right, in my opinion, they did it. They opened the doors to all of this. I if there was a Green Party, I would be registered in the Green Party. I'm a registered Democrat. I vote for Democrats in every presidential election or since Ralph Nader, and I voted for Ralph Nader, but in the end, his voting for him, Americans just were not ready. He didn't even get 1.5% of the vote in New York City.
Yeah.
So it really was a waste of a vote. Unfortunately, you spoke your mind and everyone says, vote for your art, not for your fears. Well, guess what? That's a little bit selfish because people will suffer. If you vote for a candidate that you know is not going to win just because you want to make a statement, making a statement is great. In the voting booth, you're not making it because no one else cares or very few people care, and it's not really making a difference. So you have to vote for the lesser of two evils. I always go in the booth saying, whoever is going to cause the least suffering is who I will vote for.
So you have to vote strategically.
As much as you can.
Sure.
Hard. You have to hold your nose and pull the lever, as they say. But I certainly, voted for, all the Democrats against him, even though but really it's really the social media that has destroyed the landscape of truth and reality, as well as Fox News. Now, not that there hasn't always been propaganda, and we all know there has way before we were born, obviously. We all know the history, particularly you Germans, of the evil that could come of that.
Sure.
But that was learned, as we know, from the advertising industry. And it's pure capitalism, that created these things that, really fucked up the world, didn't it?
Definitely. See, when
I was going to say one more thing. I mean, they convinced it was so incredible that over the years that they called Barack Obama a Marxist and a communist and a socialist. I wish he was. I wish he was. Like, it's such a joke. It's so pathetic. Anyone knows that that's not what it is. But this country, you don't even learn in school, unless you go to higher education, into university, they do not teach Marx at all. Not one line in my high school education about Marx or communism or anything other than it's evil in some way. And they don't even explain that. Now, even Ronald Reagan said during his time that it was idealistic. Give me idealistic every day of the week. But saying it's evil and it's wrong and this and that is stupid. And, and it just doesn't it's nonsensical. So, in America, they don't teach you other forms of, other societies. They really don't, unless you're in higher education. And it wasn't until I was in my 4th year of university, being a political philosophy student, that I started reading Marx and other ways of living, other perspectives. I mean, of course, I read, Orwell and different things in high school, but, there wasn't much. The education system here is pretty bad, whether you're in private school or public school. And private school, in some ways, is worse because they really have a target. They really just want you to step in line to take, to not really think outside the box. They just want to, create people who are
efficient,
corporations and whatnot, and more so than I think the public school. Actually, a lot of people say the public school does that. I don't think the school system is horrible by design. I really don't. Just like I don't believe in planned obsolescence by these, Apple and stuff like that. It's like the technology is moving. That's why it becomes obsolete. They're not doing it on purpose. If you think that and you want to believe in every fucking conspiracy, go ahead. It's a waste of fucking time. Live with what we have. Deal with what's in front of you, and do the best you can, right? Because all this other worrying is just, it's clouding the picture. It's not letting you get to where you need to go or do what you need to do, And again, we couldn't imagine that George, there were, 1 million people in the street when George Bush was running for re-election, protesting, him when the Republican convention came to New York City. I mean, a million, hundreds of thousands. I mean, it was, blocks and miles of people. Nowadays, you get a protest, it's not more than 10 blocks. It just doesn't happen, It just, people are behind their screens. Most of them. There's a lot of great people out there fighting the fight and going to protests and doing what they could. And then there's other people who believe that going to protests is like going to a funeral. You're paying homage to the people, to the person. But they don't hear you. They're dead.
So what it's about?
You're protesting you're making a protest out in the streets. And now that they put you in pens and they have fences and you're not allowed to go here and you're a mile away from the actual event, who the fuck is hearing you? Sometimes it gets through. Absolutely. I'm not saying that protests are worthless, but I'm saying that you should pick and choose, and you got to really make your voice heard. And it is good for young people in particular to get out there and make as much noise and break as much shit as you can to get the attention of people. But it's very hard. It's very, very hard to make that big difference these days, in my opinion. And unfortunately, as a person who's gotten older, as we all hope to do at some point, in some ways, I am still idealistic, but I do believe that voting does matter. And so many people have been, different friends of mine, over the years, anarchists, or whatever you want to call them, whatever persuasion they're under, say, I'm not voting because I don't want to participate in the system. Right? Mm-hmm. There were these humongous protests back then, and it's hard to believe that, that people have become, in some ways, so blasé, so, lazy. They care when they can press a button, but they don't really, they've been convinced by websites and conspiracy theorists that nothing matters. It's not important to vote. It doesn't make a difference. Don't participate in that system if you want to tear it down. Well, guess what? That's what they said 20 years ago. Not me, but they let the Republicans win because they think, well, it'll be so bad, people will learn their lesson. Well, where the fuck have it gotten us? Where has it gotten us? You got Dump in fucking supposed to come into office in January? I mean, it's unbelievable, but at the same time, there's chaos with, the lunatics running the asylum.
Definitely.
This time they have the Heritage Foundation, and they've got, more organized people you would think who are going to be running things and trying to get these objectives that they have in this Project 2025 and all this stuff to happen. But I think they're too fucking stupid to do it. I don't know, and I think, and the truth is the checks and balances are almost gone, but you still need 60%, not just a simple majority in the Congress and the Senate to get things passed. So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to accomplish. The motherfucker could even build a stupid fucking wall last time. So I mean, and that, and the Republicans have just been obstructionists for since they had a black president. Since we had a black president, they didn't want him to do anything. It's a pretty sad political situation in this country, without a fucking doubt.
All right, say when you're talking about what demonstrations, riots, etc. looked like and what they look now on the one hand, and on the other hand, when you say that you would favor politicians like AOC or Bernie Sanders, are you asking for more radicalization as well on the side of the politics and the side of the voters?
What the fuck is radical about social programs? There's no radicalization. It's about humanity. It's about the destruction of greed. It's like Michael Moore said a long time ago, or I think it was him or someone else talked about it. They said something very funny. Said, first of all, no, and I believe this 100%. No one should be able to be that rich No one should, it just doesn't, I don't care how smart you are. Let me tell you something. If you're a billionaire, there's a lot of people below you who should be getting paid more money. Just because you had this brilliant idea, you get it all. It obviously takes other people to make it happen. And even if it doesn't, share that shit. You know, Michael Moore, whoever it was, said, once you get $1 billion, you should get a trophy that says, you won capitalism. And that's it. And you get no more. You get no more. That's it. You won. You won the game. You got capitalism. You don't get triple platinum. You know, you get the trophy. You're done. The rest of it all goes to a government. By the way, people want to put down government. Government sucks. Government sucks. Government sucks. Guess what? We put them there. Vote for better fucking people. The government doesn't have to suck. The government does plenty of great things. There's fire departments. There's libraries. There's public parks. There's school systems that could be better. There's a lot of fucking shit. There's traffic lights. Government does a lot of good shit, and they could do a lot more good shit. The money they waste on the military-industrial complex is disgusting and abhorrent and ridiculous and makes very little sense just to make money for particular people. But there's a lot of good government can do, and if you vote for the right people, it will do it. And if you think I'm an idiot because I think that you could change things by voting for people, not voting has never changed a motherfucking thing. So just think about that. Not voting has never changed anything. People have fought for the right to vote forever and ever. The Republicans, all they're trying to do is stop people from voting, to stop your vote from counting. So if they're trying so hard to stop it, why? How is it not important? Obviously it's important. Otherwise they wouldn't be trying to stop it, you dumb fucking idiots.
Couldn't agree more. What I mean with radicalization is that probably some very high up people in the Democratic Party would consider someone like Bernie Sanders a radical.
Well, I can't even say that because he's not radical at all. He's not radical at all. In fact, he is just, even in this country, he's just on the left. That's all I could say about Bernie. He's just on the left. You know, everyone else is on the right except for AOC and a couple of other members of Congress. They're just, it has just shifted so far right that everyone is right except for people like Bernie and AOC and maybe 24 other people in there. And there's great people on, in there. There's some great people, but it's very hard for them to, they're very, there's lots of people trying to do good things. And they're just being obstructed by obstructionists, by people who don't want the other side to look good. They don't want the other side to succeed. They don't want the other side to do something for people because it'll make them look bad. Because they're not doing a fucking thing for people except for, a particular class or a particular group that is a minority, a very tiny minority. And they even the far right Christians, they say they don't give a fuck about them. It's funny. Every politician has gone to church and done all that shit just to kiss ass to the religious people. This motherfucker never went to church a day in his life. He doesn't give a shit. Trump never went. He doesn't give a fuck. He's completely the opposite of all the morals that they preach. Yet they all follow him just because he ended abortion rights for women in this country. It's fucking disgusting. It's ridiculous. It just doesn't even make any sense. And anyone who has any understanding of the political world understands all of this. I am not smart. I am not that smart. But I'm not an idiot either. I have some education. I went to university. But most of the political ideals that I have come from my friends and from what I've learned through punk rock and hip hop and skateboarding, and my lifestyle. I wanted to pursue these ideals. I did care and I do care about other people, and people who don't, I don't know what to say. It's just sad. I became a vegan over 35 years ago. Plant-based, whatever the fucking polite term is you want to call it. That's fine. That's all good. But I know I wanted to do when I discovered how it destroys the environment, what you put in your body and how you eat, I couldn't do it. I couldn't continue that kind of lifestyle anymore when I realized I could make an impact, even if it's one person at a time, just like with your vote or your protest or whatever it is. You know, it made no sense. It's unhealthy. It's bad. Number one, it's bad for the environment. For me. For a lot of people, number one, it's bad for the animals. No fucking shit. You're killing animals. You know, they have lives too. They're not brainless. They might not have the brains that we have, but who's to say? I would love to run around in the fields naked and eat food and not have to worry about it ever, right? Like a fucking chicken or a cow. You know what I'm saying? But we don't do that. We live in a civilized world. Supposedly, we are in a civilization. So we have to make certain compromises and we have to care about our fellow human beings. Otherwise, we have chaos.
We have to be civil.
That is correct. And I'll tell you one thing. I was in Europe this past fall, and every time I go and every time I come back, I'm like, they are so fucking civilized over there compared to here.
Really?
Really. Even with the right wing having a place in government there, you know, and all the shit going on, America is fucking, we're barbarians. I mean, late stage capitalism really is a thing. And it really is fucking foul. And people just, people are in love with money here. I don't think it is such the case in Europe as it is here. Because they were taught the American dream and everyone could do it, but really that's not a reality anymore. Everyone can't do it. And yes, but you have parliamentary systems. It's not winner take all like it is here. And we have our 3 branches of government, but the way it's been, it's going now, they've really, people have not paid enough attention, and they, create this apathy, whether it's the internet or, the media, the typical media, the television and whatnot, that have made people apathetic, made them believe, just give up on it all because there's no hope. It's really unfortunate. It really is, because we all, my friends and I, my peoples know we have to keep fighting the good fight. We have to keep doing what we do. You can't let anything stop you from doing it, but you also can't give up. And people, particularly younger generations and less educated, just give up. They're not doing anything for me. So why should I do anything for them? Why should I vote for them? Why should I show my support for them? I get that. I understand it. But guess what? If you think of nothing else, think of, okay, in America, there's usually only 2 or 3 candidates running. Who is going to cause the least amount of suffering? This person, this person, this person. The least suffering will happen under this person by the majority for sure. Even though they're going to do a lot of fucking shit I don't agree with. I have to pick that person.
Like, if you don't have the perfect vote, you still always have the better vote.
Yeah. I mean, that's the problem with the people on the left, is that we have so much ideals and idealism and different things that we believe in. And if you can't have it all, a lot of the people just say, fuck it, I'm not doing that. I'm not going that way or this way. And these are common arguments. These are arguments of medium level of intelligence people would have, including myself. It's like, it's so fucking obvious. It's nothing, but the people on the right are fucking focused. They are fucking focused in a lot of ways. At least the majority of them all want, a Christian nation, or they want, these Christian Judeo values, and they want what they think is freedom. Mm-hmm. But it's only because they understand, they think that, laissez-faire capitalism is the only way to go, that there should be no restrictions. There should be no regulations. We want to be free. It's really a bunch of crap. It's just that there are these catchwords, these catchphrases that people, cemented to, that they think, they're absolutists, right? And it's again, there's nothing that absolute in the world. There's no predicting what really is going to happen, except for the sun will rise tomorrow and the sun will set tomorrow and people will be born and people will die. There's nothing much else that is 100%. You know, I've even said to myself in moments, you know, where I'm very stuck to this word idealist because I made a book called The Idealist, you know, one of my favorite books. And I've been called that. And I use that phrase a lot. And there are moments where even I lose my own idealism. I do. There are moments where that happens. Everyone gets down or depressed here and there. And I think for myself, but speaking of losing, you know, my idealism and then regaining it, you walk outside, you see the world. You know, we function every day. We have to live, eat, and be social animals. You know, we were very tested during COVID, obviously, to all of this. And when people don't understand and don't listen to reality and they get distracted from bullshit they get on all these different kinds of media, it's really, really sad.
One other thing that you said was when you came to Europe last year, you figured that everyone was so civil and so probably polite, even with all the right-wing stuff going on here.
No, it was just, Chris, let me just correct you. It was just seemed, I'm sitting in Paris at a vegan boulangerie, and I'm just thinking, like, you know, it's just so much more civilized here. Like looking at people walking on the sidewalk, though, even. And I mean, I'm in Paris, obviously, and it's going to be nice, and, you know, but it's like, it just, life in Europe just seems more civilized. People seem more intelligent in the big cities. And I'm sure it's the same, although in New York, you wouldn't necessarily think that in this big city, you know, that people have education and stuff. But I mean, when I was in Germany in particular, I mean, everyone was really, really like very intelligent that I was dealing with at my shows. Like I was an idiot, you know, they knew everything, I knew nothing. And that's just how I felt. That's just the truth, you know? And like I said, I'm not the smartest guy, but I'm not a complete idiot. But I think that, you know, but people just in Europe seem, you know, but maybe it's just the circles I travel in since I'm speaking English and I'm talking with my art and my books and my work, that those are the people I happen to run into. And that might be the case, but just society in general, it just, you know, it is more civil. I mean, workers have rights there. You know, you do have democratic socialism there that we really don't have here. We have some social, you know, safety nets, but they're disappearing every day, as they are over there as well. But people are just more civil there. I mean, in France, you know, they have a law. You know, you can't have a baguette sell for more than €1. You know, it's like, you know, make sure people could eat.
Yeah, sure, but isn't one always most critical of the home country? Because when
well, it's because it's what you know best, of course.
Sure,
but it's only because of what you know best, unless you're just a genius and you know everything about everyone in every country, which I certainly don't. But even if it's just on the surface, it appears that way. Like, of course, there are, you know, they're fascists in the governments and they have seats in parliament, but do they really get to make that much of a difference like they do here? Like, we don't even have any fascists in the government, you know, quote, fascists in the government. We have people who act like that. And they're fucking running havoc on the whole system. They don't give a fuck. They're just destroying everything. And it's under the guise of something else. You know, they say they're doing one thing, but they don't do anything and they're really and they're tearing it down, not in a constructive way. I don't believe in blowing it up. You know, my best friend, you know, we build our own systems as examples of what to do. You know, if society is not doing it, let's do it ourselves and show them an example of what we could do. Running your own record labels, publishing your own books.
DIY.
We still have to pay taxes. Well, yeah, DIY. You know, it's like it's so corny of a you know, thing to say, but it's like we also in the, you know, 70s and 80s we did it ourselves because we did not have a choice. And then some people who had the choice did it because they wanted to control it themselves and didn't want to participate in those systems. Okay, but for the greater good, we do try and help the bigger system, those outside of us, those above, around us that aren't necessarily our families. There's caring individuals, and we should all be that. But this, very often capitalism just pits each other against, pits us against each other.
Sure.
And it's really a sad situation because we know that it doesn't have to be like that.
Did you consider yourself a political person in your 20s?
I consider myself a political person since I've been 8 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
100%.
In what way?
There was one candidate who was against the war, and there was one candidate who was for the war. I didn't want to see anyone dying. I didn't care about it. I grew up, in peace and love generation, even though it failed because of drugs mostly, I wanted to vote. I had badges on my clothing that said to vote for McGovern. In 72, I was 10, right? Or was it? Yeah, I think it was 72 or 68. I think it was 72. And, it's like, of course I was for the candidate who was against the war in Vietnam. Mm. I didn't want to be drafted. So it was very, when I got 10 years older, I had an idea of what was going on in the world. And again, peace and love, what it was about. Punk rock isn't always so nihilistic. A lot of punks and hip hop people really do. We also want to make the world a better place. It's not just about, search and destroy all the time. It is in certain areas, but for what goal? But there's a goal there. It's not just for no reason. It's to make things better.
Mm-hmm. Would you consider today more hopeful than it was let's say 30 years ago?
Well, I think, it's, when you think about that, and this is where, you could get your idealism back when you lose it. And we're coming back to that answer is that, people of color were not allowed to vote not that long ago.
Yeah.
The Holocaust happened not that long ago.
Right.
In Germany, and in Eastern Europe and in Europe, right? Simple things like being, having a plant-based diet. I couldn't buy soy milk. I had to walk, 2 miles, and I live in New York City, to get some soy milk. Now it's on every corner. It's in every place. Now everyone could vote except for people below a certain age. And, so, the environment, people are more in tune with it, but they're being hoodwinked and tricked into thinking that it's not important again by the internet, by politicians who just want to take all the resources out of the earth and keep polluting because they want to make money. But we all are conscious of the environment like people weren't even a generation ago, 2 generations ago, So the world in many ways is, progress is, it's all going towards a direction.
Yeah.
And I don't usually agree, some of the more nihilistic people would say, the earth will always be here. Just humans may not. And that's, and I do believe that sometimes, that when it gets really bad, are we headed towards Planet of the Apes or Soylent Green, and in those moments I have to say, okay, I've had a good run, but I haven't given up, and I don't give up, and I don't think anyone should give up. And I think that that's the thing. It's so easy when you're just looking at your phone or, you're eating your ice cream and you think, I'm okay. And, and you don't feel as though you have any say in what's going on. That's what they want you to think. The governments suck because we don't put in the right people. And it is true that when people get power, they do get swayed different ways, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I believe in all those cliches, but I also believe in some of the politicians that are there. I've always seen that someone could be better, and people can do better if you guide them and you force them to be better. They will do better. They're representing you, after all. It's just a matter of getting your fellow citizens to understand and believe some of those ideals that you do. They don't have to be lockstep with you, but just understand that we really do want peace and love, actually. We really want that. And we don't mind if our brothers and sisters of other races and other religions share that with us. We're not scared. They try and scare people from each other, and this is a big tactic of mostly the people on the right, but I'm sure the people on the left do it sometimes too. We are scared of the far right. Well, yeah, when they start taking, for what they say is liberty, when it's really just selfishness. You don't want regulations. You don't want laws. I mean, Germany has laws, right, that you can't talk about the Nazis or in a particular way, or you can't have a Nazi party. I don't know what it really is now, but I mean, there's it's not, freedom of speech isn't absolutist, just like it isn't even here. They say that freedom of speech is okay until it puts someone in danger. So you can't go into a movie theater and yell fire if there's no fire, because it puts people in danger, right?
Right.
So why do people have to have the right to lie, for instance? Oh, they'll figure it out. It's like, well, we do need regulations because some people are unhinged and some people don't give a fuck about other people. So they pollute the environment, they pollute the world, they put out unsafe cars, they put out unsafe devices just to make $1, or they build things that pollute the environment to kill people in the long run, or harm our bodies that we don't realize are harming our bodies just because they want to make money faster. That's not fair. That's not good for everybody. So no, you shouldn't. We need some regulations.
Definitely.
And yes, I'm a punk. Yes, I'm a punk and all that. And I believe in all those punk rock ideals. But it's like the government is there. It is there to protect us in the end. It is supposed to do that. That's what we elect these people to do against the big corporations. And you live in a society where there's going to be corporations, but should they have the same rights as individuals just because they're made up of individuals? No, they're fucking companies that are only made there for profit, some of them. The ones that aren't only for profit, that are for mankind and just making a decent living, that's okay. But the idea that you have to make more money every year,
this is absurd.
Every quarter, and you have to, it's just nonsense. It's not realistic. It's unsustainable. And that's where we've become in this society. So much of what we're trying to do is unsustainable. And that's just really, not a winning combination. But yes, if you look at the bigger picture, the last 50 years, things are much better. Look at 200 years ago, what was going on in this country and in the world with industrialization and pollution and just the way we lived our lives. Other than in America, everywhere else in the Western world, people's lifespans are tremendously longer and better for the most part. In America, they're not, because we have for-profit medicine. So, we're living a little bit longer, but actually our death rates are getting younger and younger every year in this country because of how people have their unregulated, food systems and medical systems and for-profit systems, and it's just, what are you going to do?
I mean, you live
best you can. You're going to do the best you can with what you have. You're not going to give up. That's what you're going to do. I mean, I just said it like rhetorically. What are you going to do? Well,
sure.
You're going to do the best that you can. You're going to fucking do something. Just do something. Not everyone could go to every protest. Not everyone could go on a plant-based diet, although they could, but some people have restrictions and it's difficult for them. You could do it. Just do something. And some people will do everything they possibly can, but they're not going to make everybody happy. But, you just do the best you can, and we keep doing what we do when we know our focus is true, or as Elvis Costello said, my aim is true. That's what it is, right? That's what it is.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. And I mean, you live in New York, such a big community, so many people together on such a relatively small patch of land without regulations. It's chaos, and not in a good way.
Couldn't even flush a toilet if you didn't have the government. You understand? You couldn't live here like this. In Roman times, they realized that, you have to have aqueducts. You have to have these things for a civilization to survive. Otherwise, there's disease.
Sure. And it's funny that you say this, because I recently read something about the fall of the Roman Empire. It got so big so that information wasn't reaching each and every one in the empire. And the same goes way back. For example, farmers, thousands and thousands of miles far away from Rome, the government didn't know what they were up to. They sometimes didn't even know if they were plundered or whatever. So if there are no regulations, and if there is no system of the flow of information, it's a recipe for disaster.
But the information has to be honest.
Yes.
And accurate.
Definitely.
And when you have absolutists speaking of saying that it's okay to lie, that it's okay to cheat, that it's okay to steal because we don't want to be regulated, and we're libertarians and we should throw garbage in the street because it doesn't matter. Well, I want my freedom. Guess what? Civilization, societies cannot function like that. And if we care about our fellow man and woman and brother and sister, then we have to care about being organized and civilized together. And it's not limiting your freedom so much as just being kind and understanding.
Yeah,
and not being so greedy. It's really greed is what it comes down to, and insecurities. And some societies create those insecurities in us, right? Like I was saying, I read in university that capitalism creates false appetites.
Sure.
Well, guess what? For an American at 18 or 19 years old, that was an epiphany. And it really did change my whole perspective on politics and life. Even though I was leaning towards the left, or I was definitely left in this country, and I believed in what they call progressive ideals, which used to be liberal ideals, but they demonized these words because they're positive, good words. And neoliberal, how did they corrupt the word liberal with neo to make it think, it just confuses everybody and really makes understanding and skepticism, it lessens understanding and increases skepticism. And it's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate, particularly for those people not educated in understanding the terminology and the politics and having an understanding of the world beyond their own home.
Sure. Yeah. But I wonder if you look to countries with a authoritarian government, with a dictatorship, etc., etc. The first things they are trying to stop are gatherings and the flow of information. In relatively free countries like you and I live, we have a free flow of information due to the internet more than ever. So it's probably no wonder that those people who are up to no good try to distract us and abstract the information that is going through. Otherwise, the populace would be the most informed and thus the most dangerous populace for a crooked government, right?
it's very confusing because the internet has brought us so much information,
Yeah.
but with that being unregulated, it has brought us so much bullshit information. And I like it for its ability to communicate with my community. But when it comes to communicating with people we really don't have any research on, we don't know them personally, we just see what gets shown on the internet with likes or comments that could all be fake, right? That we trust these people.
Mm-hmm.
They prey on people with less understanding, with ideas that make them feel more intelligent and special. And it's manipulating people, like with COVID, to think, oh, I know something they don't know. I finally know something better than the scientists or than the intellectuals.
The elites.
And they are not going to let go of that shit. Once they get it, they feel that they know something that the other people know that they've felt inferior to forever. And it makes them feel like, and people, they've been conned and they've been hoodwinked. People are selling, books or recipes or, medicines, of some kind, they're all selling something.
Sure.
Very few people are there just to make the world better when it comes to the internet. We are here having a discussion, and many people are, to discuss ideas. I have books that I make. I have prints that I sell. You don't need to have any of them. Let's make that clear. If you want it, great, cool, if it inspires you. But my work is to inspire other people, right? That's why I've always done it. But a lot of people who are on the internet, and even look at this fucking loser, RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr. His whole family has disowned him.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's just a schemer. He's just another con man. He was a great environmentalist while his heart was in it. He really did care. It seemed as though he cared about the environment, and it was a great cause, but it didn't bring him enough notoriety. So he becomes an anti-vaxxer because, like Trump, he's got an audience that is not very well informed, not understanding of science or political systems, and takes advantage of these people and makes them feel special, makes them feel heard, makes them feel like all of a sudden they know something that no one else knows. So they latch onto it and they don't let go. And they have their beliefs. And now all of a sudden their beliefs, their quote research, is now their science and makes them better. And because they felt so inferior for so long, again, they will not let go of these fallacies, these silly, ridiculous attempts at science and manipulation of people. That is just unfortunate and doesn't help society in any way whatsoever. It actually makes us go back. Right. It actually reverses all the advances that we've worked towards. Who would think? I mean, I could never have imagined in 2025 that America is going to have a wannabe fascist president. Who would think in 2025 that less people believe in science than ever? I mean, are we really going, is this going to be the new dark ages? And it is particularly dispiriting when I think of what we did in the late 70s and early 80s with punk rock and politicized so many of our peers' understanding of the world. And what we did with the internet and our communications that opened up in the late 90s, and how we communicated with friends all over the world, and Twitter was such a great thing, and you could organize the Arab Spring and all these great, and Occupy Wall Street and all these great things that happened. And then all of a sudden it just all gets turned inside out and everyone's a fucking idiot, or at least half the people are. The sad thing is the American election, as you probably know, is that, the person who won got less votes than they did even last time when they lost. Because social media and regular media and whatever it was convinced people that it didn't matter, that it wasn't important to vote. And so they didn't. Young people also convinced of the evil of one side and the evil that, I understand when I was young, I was more of an absolutist too. If someone didn't see everything that I saw, I could not compromise. I can't vote for that person because
Whatever
it is, they eat animals, so I can't vote for them. I can't vote for someone who eats a cow. I can't do it. Well, that's pretty fucking stupid. Because now more people are going to suffer because I can't agree with them. I could agree with them on, if I could agree with them on anything, that's a reason to look at them. And if less people will suffer if I go for that person rather than the other person, that's what I have to do. Is that an extraordinary amount of compromise? It's a compromise, yes. But to me, it's no compromise if I know less people will suffer. It's a no-brainer. It's obvious. This is what you have to do if you care about humanity and you believe in what I call freedom, not absolutist freedom or absolutist freedom of speech. If I believe in, democracy and a social democracy, this is what we have to do. You have to participate. And people don't. And, everyone says, well, they'll learn our lesson. We'll see what happens. Well, they're talking about, it's 2025. I thought there's no fucking way. I couldn't believe that George Bush got elected. I thought, I was so depressed. I was like, punk rock did nothing. I feel like, what did we do? Like someone like Bush could get elected? And now this fucking numbskull, this fucking con man, it's even worse. It's like, how does this happen? Lots of great things happen for the internet. But Twitter is a really good example. It was such a great tool at a particular time, and everything's just been destroyed and used and manipulated to, just fuck with people, just fuck up the system and fuck up real people who are really trying to make a good, positive change. They just destroyed it. I feel that's why we started getting junk mail, because you get so much junk mail, you don't even check your email anymore. They want people to stop communicating. Because when people all talk, when people know each other and people educated, the world will be a better place. And it is a better place when we understand each other. That's the main thing. You're not afraid of your black brother if you know him. You're not afraid of your white sister if you know her and you understand her. Communication is the key to all peace on this planet.
Right. Communication.
It's very simple. There's very simple answers. But there are people who don't want those things. And it seems like it's easier sometimes to just fall into these, distrustful places. They play on your fears. Who's they? I don't know. We know, but it's like, I don't mean to be, again, I'm not a conspiratorialist at all. I really am not. I don't, are there conspiracies out there? Yes. All the ones that you read on the internet and see all the time. True. I'd say maybe 1% of them, probably less. It's just people scamming on other people. It's just people, making up some grandiose idea. And because they've got the camera in front of them, they feel as though they could say anything they fucking want. And they get followers, and people want to believe it because they want to feel smarter. They want to feel like they know something other people don't know because they felt inferior their whole lives. It's a lot of insecurity out there. And again, the systems breed that insecurity. The internet breeds that insecurity.
I feel like more and more the the internet breeds boredom, and many people are bored, and so they are tinkering with conspiracy theories and whatnot. And this is...
Boring people are bored, okay? Boring people are bored. And that's unfortunate. But and the internet there's a lot of great things. There's a lot of incredible YouTube videos, lots of great educational stuff.
Sure.
But you have to check your sources. You have to understand where things are coming from. And it's very hard for people to filter the way that would probably be beneficial to mankind, because things are interesting. Things are exciting. Look at what Fox News did. They had the lowest common denominator television programming. They had The Simpsons. The Simpsons made fun of Fox News. They made fun of the Fox network. But Fox heads were very intelligent. And they knew this was a way to manipulate people, to get them in. You get them watching all our LCD programming, Married with Children, The Simpsons, all this other crap that they put on there, whatever it was. And you know what? They put on the news at 10 o'clock at night. Everyone else, the major networks, got their money and then went to the news at 11 o'clock at night.
Okay.
So all of a sudden you have news that comes on at 10, which is before everyone else. Think of the propaganda importance. How you're watching all these shows and they're like, coming up at 10, the weather, coming up at 10, this man got his, car chopped in half by a train, all this thing at 10 o'clock. And so you're going to watch their news because you've just been watching all their programming, so you're sucked into it. The major networks, because by the way, when they came around, there was only, without cable, which most people didn't have, there was only 4 or 5 places in the major cities to get your news from. That's it.
Yeah.
And they were networks that had accountability to the FCC, to the government, that they had to do good things. Fox News has always been about entertainment, not about news. And unfortunately, Bill Clinton gave Rupert Murdoch the license to have Fox News because he was a foreigner and you weren't allowed to have the airwaves if you were a foreigner up until that point.
Really?
And they allowed it. And he allowed that to happen. And, and who could have predicted that it would be what it was? I don't know. I'm guessing that someone could have. I don't know. I didn't know who he was before Fox News. I had no idea. But we throw it in the trash now, just like I did all those items while I was just talking to you. By the way, how is the sound? Is the sound okay?
Sound is good. But I see the second session is already again coming to an end. So
we have 7 minutes.
Yeah. Say, if anyone knows how to inspire people, it's probably you, because you did it for the better part of your life, and you did it mercilessly. So what's to do?
Like I've said before, everyone just do something. Do what you do best. Do something that you know. Show the world and people that you care and that you're decent. Even when you walk out the door, just say good morning to somebody. Just say hello to people. Just treat people kindly. That's where you start. Seriously. I'm going to be 63 years old. Who the fuck ever dreamed of being that old? I never did. I can't imagine that I still do what I do. Every year, every month, I don't know. I really don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know, but I keep doing it. Meaning making a living, surviving. The beginning of the year, I don't know what jobs work, how I'm going to do it. And goodness, I've done it. I keep doing it. And the photographs inspire people. It's my particular vision that I have and the way that I idealize my subjects because they inspire me. So I want to make them look even greater than they are because I want other people to get the same inspiration from them. Most of them, all of this happened in the 80s or the 70s and 80s and 90s. I've taken very few pictures since then, made very few photographs. I still do, but it's much more infrequent because I was inspired by this particular group of people and I was inspired by my life at that point to continue to the way and where I am. And I've created things that meant so much to me. I'm so happy they still mean so much to other people. I would hope, to be honest, that others would have come along and made just as inspiring images and that other people continue to inspire people with their work, not just to be popular on the internet or on Instagram or to publish in a magazine that exploits people just to be known or to make the money. My books barely break even. It's always been that way. Everyone's concept of what money making is different. But honestly, it doesn't pay for my rent. It's just my maintenance. It's just, but you figure out ways to do things. You make it happen and you make it work, and you keep doing the things and keep your integrity as much as you can in your life, because it's really all you have, right? And that is being said by someone with some privilege, of course. But I've built and worked that my whole life. I don't go out drinking. I don't go out partying. I don't spend beyond my means. I live a very frugal lifestyle to have the creativity that I have and have the freedom to do it with integrity. If I flew on, business class or first class on a plane, if I ate out fancy dinners every night, I would have to take a lot of work that I don't want to take. Fuck that. I love my work. I love what I do. I love my photographs. I created images looking through that camera that I am so proud of, that I love them. Fuck it if no one else does. I love them. They're great. They're some of them are just what I wanted to do. And that's exactly, imagine being in life and being able to do exactly what you want to do, create exactly what you want to do, paint or photograph or make a movie. I was watching Goodfellas last night for like the 800th time. And I could never do that. Make a film like that. I could never do that. But I do what I do good, what I do well. And that's what I share with people. I have my expertise, and everyone has their expertise in something. And if you don't, I hope you find it. But you do what you do best. And someone like me, I'm lucky, it inspires other people what I do best. When I portray people in a particular way that I am seeing, that I'm, again, idealizing as their perfect portrait, their perfect moment, their beautiful 500th of a second that's going to kick someone's ass when they see it in another part of the world where I've never even been. And for that, I'm very lucky. Now, did it take a lot of work? Fuck yeah. Did it take a lot of compromise? Fuck yeah. People told me since I was in my 30s, you could be rich. You could be really rich. You could make a lot of money. You could sell your stuff here. You could do an advertisement here. I was offered Coca-Cola, different. Fuck that. And I am so happy that I've made it this far doing what I do. Because I'm definitely, my peak of creativity or of creation has passed. Probably. Maybe not. But I'm still making books, and I love making books. It's fun to make books, and they inspire people. And some of the work that I was creating when I was really young, I look back at it, and it wasn't what I wanted at that moment in time. I wanted, let's say I shot a roll of film, and I had 2 or 3 photos on it. Those are the ones. Circle that. That's the best one. Now I look back at them, like with the Black Flag book, or the Minor Threat book, or the Bad Brains book. And I'm like, man, I was fucking focused like a laser beam, because I could look at the photos that I didn't pick in the 70s and 80s and now see that almost all of them are good. In my new Bad Brains book, I published every single photo I ever took of them. Every single fucking shot that I ever snapped is in the new book. They're not all great. There's the flip. There's a shot that's on the cover of the book. There's photos that people have seen, the iconic ones that everyone remembers. But there's those other ones that are fucking pretty damn good too. And when people like Ian MacKay or Zach De La Rocha look at them and say, these are amazing. The world needs to see these. This will kick more ass. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Let's make this book. When people of integrity like those guys say it. Because for me, even myself, I like the perfect image. But like I'm saying, not all of them are perfect, but they still speak and they still have voice for people. And so that's why I'm making the books and having fun doing that now. You know, if it's not from the heart, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And if it's from the heart, it's everything.
Couldn't agree more.
Here's your conclusion. You could edit that one right on the end.
Glen, thank you so much for the time. Thank you so much for this really nice and heartfelt conversation. It meant a lot to me. And have a good day. Have a good year in America. And
wish us luck, because we're going to need it.
I wish you. Keep on caring. And this concludes the episode, or as I usually say in German, und wir sind raus. Ladies and Gentlemen, vielen Dank fürs Zuhören, für die gemeinsame Zeit und danke für euren Support. Falls ihr diesen Podcast, also das Projekt Natürliche Ausrede, finanziell unterstützen wollt, freue ich mich über Einzelüberweisungen per PayPal oder ein Abo bei Steady. Ist ja bald Weihnachten. Und natürlich auch, wenn ihr diesen Podcast ganz kostenlos abonniert und vielleicht ein bisschen auf Social Media teilt. Alle Links dazu gibt's in den Shownotes. Wir hören uns nächsten Montag wieder. Was immer ihr tut, macht's gut. Bis später.